define the corrido. According to Vicente T. Mendoza's work from 1939, he writes that the corrido is an epic, lyric, narrative genre with quatrains with variable rhyme, describing events that cause a deep impact on the masses. So to state it in more simpler terms, the Mexican corrido is a narrative ballad, something that tells a story or has some sort of conflict, as opposed to the ranchera or the canción, which is really about love loss, and some sort of alcohol consumption. The corrido has to have conflict. The corrido was popularized during the Mexican Revolution in 1910. As a result of the 3-decade dictatorship of Porfirio Diaz in Mexico, the illiteracy rate was at a very high percentage. Mexicans really were uneducated in the early 1900s or during the Porfiriato, the late 1800s, and as a result, during the Mexican Revolution, the way they would gather the news or know about the goings-ons in Mexico was many times through the corrido. So whatever Emiliano Zapata was doing in the south, or Pancho Villa in the north, or the soldaderas all over Mexico, they would learn about that through the corrido. So it was an oral tradition that was passed on and basically became the unofficial history of Mexico. So to talk a little more about that, I have a interview that I want to show you guys that I had with the very well-known corrido artist, Regulo.
Pues en cada región de México siempre hay un intérprete, hay gente que interpreta los corridos, entonces sí como que se agarra pues, historias de cada región, de cada parte, de todas las partes de México y pues sí se habla a veces de principalmente los corridos, se habla del narcotráfico, se habla de los problemas sociales, se habla de los problemas políticos, entonces pues sí se puede decir que alguna de la parte de la historia de México sí, lo que es a nivel pueblo popular, pues los corridos puedes encontrar toda esa historia.
So it's not only according to my own research, but musicians as well feel the same thing, that narco corridos or corridos in general have become the unofficial history of Mexico. So let's fast forward about 100 years from the Mexican Revolution. It's 2009. NAFTA has been in effect for approximately 15 years. Mexico's war on drugs is at its climax, and Mexico has grown to become one of the most violent nations in the world. And also the birth of the corrido progresivo happened in 2009. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the corrido progresivo is. The corrido progresivo is a recent musical phenomenon, 2009, that can be categorized as a subgenre of the Mexican corrido. So in the early 1900s, you had the traditional corrido of Mexico telling the stories of the revolution and of everything else going on in Mexico. And at about the 1960s and 70s, when the drug trade started passing through Mexico and there was an increase in drug trafficking, the narco corrido was born. So basically a narco corrido is a corrido that talks about drug trafficking. And in 2009, several years after NAFTA was signed, and several years after Vicente Fox was nominated as president of Mexico, you see a change in the structure of the corrido and a new phenomenon called the corrido progresivo. So let's talk a little bit about NAFTA and how that affected Mexico. John Burnett of NPR.com writes that with $1 billion worth of cargo crossing the U.S.-Mexico border every day, free trade is one of the greatest gifts for drug traffickers. One of the greatest gifts for drug traffickers. Since the passage of NAFTA 16 years ago, truck traffic through Laredo, Texas alone has tripled. So we need to really pay attention and have that in our heads that NAFTA was basically a gift to the drug traffickers. They were not able to cross without being checked because there was a lot more traffic going on the border of Mexico. So what does this mean for the corrido and the narco corrido? The passing of NAFTA has fueled easier access across the border. So a couple of statistics for you. Only 20% of the vehicles crossing the border are being stopped and inspected. And even with that low percentage, there are still about 100 tons of marijuana that are confiscated at the border yearly. There's over 25,000, I put 20,000? I think it's closer to 30,000 murders in Mexico 2011, and that number is constantly increasing. It's one of the most dangerous countries in the world nowadays. So, what does that have to do with the drug cartels and NAFTA? Now that we can cross the border somewhat easier, you know, for business via NAFTA, a lot of drug cartels are beginning to fight amongst each other, because cartels are like the gangs of San Antonio or East LA or wherever, right? It's a rivalry and a fight for land, right? Now, you don't necessarily own it, but you control it. So the more land you control in Mexico, the more the more drug you can traffic across the border, right? So there's a fight to increase your land control. And that's why there's a lot of violence in Mexico, because a lot of the cartels are fighting amongst each other for that land control so they can traffic the money and the drugs. The more land you have, the more control you have, and the more money you make. So therefore, Mexico has become an aggressive nation. So does the musical genre writing its story. The corridos have always written the story of Mexico. So as Mexico becomes more aggressive, so do the corridos. So I translated one verse of the song. You can see right off the bat, this is the first verse of the song. Well, an AK-47 and a bazooka around my neck, cutting heads off of anyone in our way. We are bloodthirsty, crazy, unrespected, and we like to kill. I don't know if any other musical genre really hits you hard. It seems kind of funny to me. So I figured maybe I would sing a little bit for you all. I'm not a singer, nor do I play guitar, but we're gonna have fun. So I'll sing one verse. I don't know the song, but it's in Spanish. Con cuerno de chivo, bazooka en la nuca, volando cabezas, aunque se atraviesa. Somos sanguinarios, locos, bien dominados, nos gusta matar. So the song. You don't have to clap. I don't want my kids singing this stuff. So a lot of people have a problem with this being the official history of Mexico now. But you have to remember, Mexico has become a lot more aggressive, so does their music genre. According to Guillermo Hernandez, in 2006 he writes, corridos are difficult to interpret due to their local references and conventions. As a result, corridos have flourished in bouts of isolation, preserving the views of marginal communities. That is, corridos convey unofficial versions of history. Again, Guillermo Hernandez in 1999. He passed away in 2006, which is before the new movimiento, or the movement called the corrido progresivo began. So what he states there is not necessarily true for these corridos. What he's trying to say is, if you're from Sinaloa, or from Michoacan, or from some part of Mexico that grew up, that has corridos as the soundtrack of their lives, then you're gonna understand what they're saying. In these last lyrics, I don't know how many of you know what Cuerno de Chivo is, right? I translated it for you, but Cuerno de Chivo is actually the clip on the AK-47, and it's an extended clip, kind of looking like a horn of a goat, right? Sanguinarios, I don't know. The whole song has words that we may or may not know because we're not from that area, right? So people that listen to corridos are most likely from that area and listen to men singing corridos, men with a mustache and a tejana and a valley maybe singing corridos, right? And nowadays it's changed, and the corrido progresivo has changed that. So the corrido progresivo and the narco corrido has become very, very global, and that's what I'm going to try to prove in the next couple of 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Better hurry up. Two of the new singers out there, who wouldn't want to go out with one of these guys or dress like that, right? They're very, what you call, fashion, right? So if you have these people singing corridos instead of the older guys that we don't relate to, then you're going to create a huge audience of young people all of a sudden listening to corridos. And not only are corrido lovers in Sinaloa, but now they're all over the world, especially in Southern California and throughout this whole Southwest and even in the United States. There's another thing about the corrido progresivo. I want to talk about two things: fashion and very cool created this sense of fear among their listeners, right? I was talking about Alexander the other day, and we were talking about this topic exactly. We love fear, we love to be scared, we love sex, like on TV, right? And we love to experience wealth. Those three things, sex, wealth, and fear, kind of motivate us many times. A lot of the programs you see on TV are based on that. And this music is based on that. Very nice, rich-looking fellas, which also promote some sort of fear among their audience, not only in the way they dress, but also in their music. Not only in the lyrics, but in the actual music. So if you don't know what a minor chord is, it's kind of the difference between, I don't want to say like this, but happy and sad. So this is like major. Minor is like, if you're watching a movie and you hear that, you better close your eyes if you don't want to see something scary happening, right? So it kind of warns you of what's going to happen, or it kind of sets the mood. So in this song, I have it translated from the example that we're going to hear. And I want you to listen to the minor chords, and hopefully you'll have this sense of maybe, you're not going to be frightened, but it's going to sound, somewhat different to you than the traditional corrido. Something you listen to, but also something that you feel and you see with the clothing and you feel with the music. So they're kind of trying to have that effect on their audience. So fashion and music progression have created a new music subgenre that speaks to the progressive and contemporary minds of Mexican and Chicano youth. So if NAFTA essentially helped to create a balanced situation in Mexico and therefore a new subgenre of the corrido, what is the future of the corrido progresivo if the violence in Mexico were to stop or decrease? After all, the corrido is the unofficial history of Mexico, and it seems to be relevant when Mexico is at its most controversial point in history. So I asked this question to Pepe Garza, one of the most influential and important radio individuals in the United States, Spanish radio. And he said, quote, "It's difficult to predict the future of the corrido progresivo. I might be inclined to say that if violence is over, then so will the corrido. However, I cannot ignore the fact that the corrido has become more than a news interpreter. So it's not something necessary, but something that we like and we utilize for pleasure." So one more quick interview with Rego Lucaro on what he believes is the future of the...
La violencia se puede controlar, pero más nunca se va a acabar. Entonces, mientras pues haya todas las cosas pues, que son cosas humanas, pues siempre va a haber esa música. Y no nomás en los corridos, yo estoy seguro que en otros países, en otras culturas también se ha dado algo parecido a un corrido donde narre pues, lo que está pasando en la sociedad. Entonces siempre, con el problema social, pues, siempre está ahí inscrita la violencia. No creo que se acabe el corrido, como te digo, ya desde cuándo está este rollo, ya casi tenemos fácil unos 80 años que existe todo ese rollo. Entonces, se puede controlar, no creo que se acabe y siempre va a haber alguien ahí que va a querer estar ahí como, si no está haciendo nada, pero voy a hacer el corrido, ¿no? Entonces, lo veo difícil, pero a ver qué pasa.
So he's one of the innovators of the corrido progresivo from 2009. So I'll close with this statement. It seems that narco-corridos and drug culture, in essence, danger and excitement, are the driving force behind this genre of music, offering an alternative lifestyle and subculture to its audience. The corrido's innovative style has had an impact on Mexican youth. It has transformed from a necessary music genre to an aesthetically pleasing music style that has only increased in popularity since 2009 and doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Thank you very much.